First, Jaren Jackson Jr., then James Harden, and all of a sudden the NBA looks completely different. We're going to break down the big trades, plus what's next and all the games in today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night. Let's go.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night, tipping off now.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, the number one podcast network. We're also going to cover the trades. Nick Angstadt.
That's right. I'm Nick Angstadt from Locked On Mavs, and we are talking about Jaren Jackson Jr. moving to the Utah Jazz, going from Memphis to Utah. That's kind of a different move.
That's a different
Those are
vibe.
very different cities that he is now going to have to experience in his NBA career.
We also had James Harden, which we kind of heard a little bit about yesterday. That one seemed to come go to Cleveland. I was supposed to record with Danny Cunningham of Locked On Cavs tonight, but the dude literally then just got on a plane and flew out to LA. If you want to know the dedication of our hosts, how about that one? Right?
You think he's going to find Harden out there? You think he's just going to go club to club and try and find James Harden out there?
There's only so many places that he's going to be. He's going to give him the Rex probably in Cleveland and where to hang out. By the way, today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. And of course, thank you for making it Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen today and every day. Whether it's the biggest trades, all the games, we got it covered here. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Join us on YouTube as well. And let's get started with just the big news, and that was the surprise-ish trade of Jaren Jackson Jr. going to the Utah Jazz. Maybe JJJ being traded is not the surprise, but the Utah Jazz being the destination, I definitely think was. Let's go over to Locked On Jazz for their take.
According to reports across the NBA, the Utah Jazz have stunned the trade deadline, acquiring Jaren Jackson Jr., the former All-Star and Defensive Player of the Year from the Memphis Grizzlies. I'm David Locke of Locked On Jazz, and according to multiple reports, the Utah Jazz are moving out of rebuild mode and into contention mode with this move. The Jazz now have former All-Star and Defensive Player of the Year, Jaren Jackson Jr. as Austin Ainge, who took over basketball operations this summer, makes a big swing with the backing of the Jazz ownership. Ryan and Ashley Smith committing to major money for both Jaren Jackson and now Lauri Markkanen, the two of them, the marquees of this team. Jaren Jackson Jr. ranked 25th on the Locked On Podcast Network Top 100 Players last year, gives the Jazz the beginning of a defensive unit. Walker Kessler, along with Jaren Jackson Jr., a defensive front line, a huge prospective starting lineup next year of Keontae George, Ace Bailey, Lauri Markkanen, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Walker Kessler, and you begin to see the pieces coming together. The Jazz have been in rebuild mode, and they use the pieces of that rebuild. Walter Clayton Jr., picked last year, Taylor Hendricks, and 3 future picks. One next year, the Jazz, the Lakers pick has been reported, and the Phoenix Suns pick in 31 reported an unprotected pick. Probably that is the biggest piece of the puzzle sent to Memphis. All reports have that the Jazz have acquired Jaren Jackson Jr., and the Jazz fans, the rebuild is winding down, and relevancy for the basketball team is around the corner.
So there's a key thing that David Locke is saying in there, and that is next year, because they are still going to try and tank this year. I think that is important to kind of mention. Their pick, they only get it if it's in the top 8. Otherwise, it's a lottery pick that ends up going to the Oklahoma City Thunder. But that is a heck of a starting lineup next year.
That is a big starting lineup next year. But it's not about next year even. It's about next year, because let's say they do land one of those top 4. I was listening to Leaf Tulane on Locked On Jazz, and he kept saying over and over again, they've got to hit one of these guys. They've got to get somebody in this draft to set them up. All right, when is that player going to be ready to win? When is that player going to be ready to actually win in a big way? For the Jazz, I'm looking at not this year, not next year, the year after that.
It's 3 years.
2027,
usually.
28. You've got Lauri Markkanen making about $50 million. Jaren Jackson making $50 million. Keontae George will be a restricted free agent that summer. And so going into that year, he'll have his contract extension, whatever that ends up being. Walker Kessler is a restricted free agent going into this summer. He'll have some kind of extension and some kind of deal to sign. Like, are three of those guys going to be making 30% of your cap each? And then all of us, like, I just don't get this one for the Jazz. I'm just not buying in on the players all fitting together. And who's the number one that lifts them to actual championship contention? Because it seems like they have a bunch of like 2.5s to me, if we're talking about options.
I wonder if it's how high do you think the ceiling is going to be for someone like Ace Bailey or Keontae George? And Keontae George has been a bit of a revelation this year, I think. And if you think both those guys are going to come forward and be leading scorers for you, this makes sense over the next like 2 years. But also then you kind of have a bridge, right? It takes rookies 3 years to really contribute to winning, at least at a high level in the NBA. Like you're seeing that with Cooper Flagg right now, and we'll get to that game a little bit later. But you can then afford to lose a Larry Markkinen in a couple of years if Ace Bailey really takes a step forward in year 3, if Keontae George becomes a solid number one guy. And they're going to be competitive enough where there's not going to be too much pressure on those guys right now. And then if you add in a top 8 pick to this draft, you might find the number one guy, but they'll at least be like a playoff team every single year here, and you can bring that guy along a little bit slower. It's also, look, it also could just be the price was right. I don't think those are extremely valuable first round picks they were sending over there. And I think there's something of just a value proposition that a team like Utah was like, yeah, we're tired of being bad. Let's at least go and do something. And we're not giving up a top 8 pick to go get a Jaren Jackson Jr.
Well, and you've also got kind of a new owner. And like David said, you have Austin Ainge taking over, trying to put his mark on the Jazz too. And so I'm just not buying into the Jazz did a rebuild and didn't get the one thing you need in a rebuild, and that's like a number one option. And so,
which is why they've been tanking repeatedly for years, because they haven't gotten that guy.
But badly, they've been tanking really bad at the beginning of seasons and really good at the end of seasons the last couple of years. Maybe
they're going to keep tanking here.
Maybe I'm downplaying Keontae George. Maybe I'm downplaying what Lowry and Jaren Jackson and one of these teams with a bunch of different guys can turn into. Maybe Ace Bailey is better than I expected. I've seen him a couple times in person, and I did not see it in those games. But maybe they could also level up too, where they still have assets. They can turn maybe a Jaren Jackson in a year or two into that number one. And so maybe it's a stepping stone move for the Jazz, and it's not the end of their rebuild.
Let's go over to the Grizzlies for their perspective here, because I found this one pretty interesting.
Jackson Jr. has been traded to the Utah Jazz per Shams Charania of ESPN. It is a boatload of moving pieces, but there's two prevailing things that really stand out in the immediate aftermath. I'm Joe Mullinax of Locked On Grizzlies, and first and foremost, thank you to Jaren Jackson Jr., the longest tenured member of the organization at this point. 2018 4th overall pick in the NBA draft. I was hesitant about Jaren being the pick. I was worried about what Jaren was going to bring to the table. He went above and beyond my expectations for what Jaren would be as a member of the Memphis Grizzlies. So thank you. The second takeaway is that the tank has fully arrived in Memphis, Tennessee. Jaren Jackson Jr. Was the best two-way player on the Memphis Grizzlies. The return from the Jazz will break down on our next episode of Locked On Grizzlies, but safe to say, not quite competing in Memphis any longer.
Joe, you got to. Joe was like, he was trying to eat those, like chew on those words as he was going like, oh my gosh, we're going to be so bad for the next couple of years.
Look, this started over the summer when they traded Desmond Bane. You don't just move that guy for picks and be like, we're going to get better. I'm a big Desmond Bane fan, so you could see this kind of coming. We'll see what ends up happening with Ja Morant here. Look, they just realized they weren't going to be competitive enough. They realized that a Desmond Bane, a Ja Morant, and a Jaren Jackson Jr. core was not going to win you a title, and credit to the Memphis Grizzlies here for resetting their timeline around Zach Edey now and Cedric Coward, and in selling high. They didn't want to run into a situation like a Trae Young where that dude gets moved and you don't get a pick back for him. They got 7 total picks between Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr. Truthfully, this is a smart move by a small market team that's just like trying to survive in a sense, it feels like.
Made a choice, and Jaren Jackson Jr. hasn't been the most healthy guy in the NBA either. No. And you know about trading a guy that wasn't very healthy, and I know now about trading a guy that's not very healthy, that's a big man, and it is difficult. And so for them, he's making $50 million over the next couple of years to get some assets in this, and they made a decision, like you said.
Yeah, I think that's truthfully what it is. Good for them. Go listen to Locked On Jazz. Go listen to Locked On Grizzlies. Make them your second listen today. Oh, by the way, the Utah Jazz played a game today, and they won 131-122 against the Pacers. Let's go over to Locked On Pacers to that one quickly.
Tony East here with Locked On Pacers in Gainbridge Fieldhouse, where the Pacers just played the
Looks like
Jazz.
he's doing the weather. He's wearing
7
a
Jazz
coat.
players available, 9 Pacers
Microphone.
players available as the Jazz made a trade, and the Pacers rested a ton of guys. Oh, what a weird game. 131-122, the Jazz end up taking it. Isaiah Collier played all 48 minutes and had 22 assists. Pacers defense just really crumbled in the second half of this game. They got some nice offensive nights. Quentin Jackson and Jarris Walker both scored 24 points, but the Pacers will be disappointed with some of their defense and some just general sloppiness you can expect in a game where so many guys are missing. It's hard to have consistent output on both ends in a game like that. The Jazz did have Lauri Markkanen available as one of their 7 guys who played in this game. That just gave them a little bit more of a consistent floor throughout this game. So some highs and lows. Certainly both teams traded the lead, but the Jazz just had a little more punch. Tonight we'll have much more on Locked On Pacers.
Why did they have more punch, Tony? Why did they have more punch?
Yeah, because of Isaiah Collier with 17 points, 22 assists in all 48 minutes, which is just an insane stat line. Coming up next, James Harden got traded again. Let's look at that one because that one's kind of crazy too. It's coming up here next to today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by FanDuel. It's last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff. The final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorites, the Seahawks, or going with the underdog Patriots, or just building one last same game parlay like I'm doing, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stars turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. So if you're a new customer, just bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. It's last call for football over on FanDuel, an official sports book partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And thank you for making a Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen today and every day. We are here 7 days a week covering literally every game across the association. We'll get into those in the next segment here. We still got to talk about the James Harden trade. But if you're going nuts over the trade deadline here, you've got to give the new Everydayer Club a try. And we're giving you a free month here to get you ready with everything. If you need a group chat to keep up with the chaos, join ours. The Everydayer Club gets you access to a group chat on Discord for the NBA here. You can chat with other fans. You can also get ad-free versions of this show. And if you sign up by the trade deadline on February 5th, you can use code DEADLINE to get your first month free. Tap the link in the show notes to learn more. All right, Nick, James Harden on the move again, being traded to the Cleveland Cavaliers for Darius Garland. I actually see this as a win-win trade.
It can be a win-win trade. The Cavs want to win now. They need to shake things up because they've had this malaise, it feels like, where they used to have these cavalanches. We would do that every night on game night when we'd have them last year. And it would just be like, oh, they went on a cavalanche and they just dominated this team for 2 or 3 minutes and then they won the game. They just haven't had that same kind of umph this season. And yes, they've been injured and guys have been in and out, but that's part of the problem. Darius Garland he's not missed as many games that people are kind of making it out to seem. He's not been like Embiid or Anthony Davis over the last couple of years, but he has missed a bunch of time and he's a smaller guard. They had those concerns already.
Currently out injured.
Yeah, the concerns that LeBron and KD mentioned on their podcast when they did over the summer, that was crazy. But they get James Harden, who's done some really good things in the playoffs and done some really awful things in the playoffs. And so they get a chance, and maybe Donovan Mitchell carries them over.
I think there's a couple things to this trade, right? Like Harden is a better player than Garland is right now. I think that's just as simple as that. This makes them better. Garland's contract's longer. It's pretty expensive. If you're concerned about his injury history for a team that was the only team in the second apron in the Cleveland Cavaliers, kind of thinking a little bit more long-term with your cap, I think is pretty important too. So you get the better player now and also maybe manage the salary cap a little bit better because we've seen some of what the second apron can do to limit you and how teams really try and duck it. So I like it from their perspective. And for the Clippers, I don't think this changes that much. To me, their ceiling was the play-in tournament this year. I don't think that changes right now. Like, they weren't getting out of that as well as they've played, I think. So this keeps them exactly where they are. But now they have a guy under contract in 27-28, which they did not have before, because basically everyone expired after next season. So now you have like a little bit of some more continuity to whatever the next era of the Clippers is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, you can build around Darius Garland and Zubats. I think that's something that you could look at going forward and say, all right, this is a tandem that we can add some pieces around, and that kind of makes sense. And they get younger, 10 years younger with Darius Garland. He's injury prone, yes, but it was like a turf toe, and then it was a jaw thing. And so I don't know if these are like reoccurring injuries. So I think this is a win for the Clippers to me.
Yeah, do you think it changes really anything in the Western Conference at all? Like, do you think it changes the Clippers' like outlook this year?
Garland is out injured.
Yeah.
But Harden was really good. I mean, just really good. They're going to go as far as Kawhi Leonard can healthily take
that's
them.
The
right?
thing,
like,
right?
That's the thing for them. But making a change like this is big. They're already rolling. So they're going to have to figure out what to do with Garland, how to play with him and all that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because they're going to take kind of a short-term hit. And, in like, you got the new arena. It's all-star in LA. You would think they would just be kind of like going for it. But this to me is like a surprisingly smart long-term move. I also think there's a limit to having like literally all the salary cap space in the world. Even if you're an LA team, we're just not seeing free agency act like it used to. We're kind of in the extend and trade area versus like sign big. You can still get one guy. It's like, is there a difference between 100 million in cap space and 80 million in cap space? And like functionally, probably not, even though there's a $20 million difference. You get the point I'm making. I did not word that as well as I could.
No, it's true. On the Cavs side of this, I'm kind of like, all right, you're going to try with James Harden. I don't know. I don't think they're done. That's the other thing is I think that they've made other moves. They made that Schroeder and Keon Ellis move. They've now made this move. Like, it doesn't seem like this team is set. And so I kind of like, let's wait and see what the Cavs do the rest of this week to figure out how to evaluate them. Because right now, if it's like, all right, it's Harden, Donovan Mitchell, Mobley, Jarrett Allen still, and then who else is starting with a Max Strus, I guess still. They got rid of Hunter. Like, I'm just waiting to see what happens with them, because I think James Harden's gonna be great for their bigs, but Darius Garland's also great for their bigs. So I don't know that they changed a ton. They just have to completely change their offensive system.
Yeah, we've seen some rumors recently about like Jarrett Allen, right? Could he be kind of the odd man out and someone that gets shipped out, and maybe that makes some sense to kind of shake it up? I think your read on that is correct, that there's more coming. We've heard maybe they're going to make a run at Giannis in the lead up to Thursday in the trade deadline here. They're going to be a really interesting team, but look, they see a window, and you got to at least credit them for going for it, even if like, I don't know if James Harden's the answer, but I don't know, it'll at least be kind of fun there.
Yeah, no, James Harden and Giannis though doesn't James Harden call Giannis the bagless? Didn't he say he had no bag?
No, I haven't heard that one.
Didn't they have a thing? Either way, I don't see them playing together. But
we'll end up seeing what the Cavaliers do. But go check out Locked On Cavs, Locked On Clippers. Make them your second listen today. So coming up next,
James Harden was the one that said, "I wish I could be 7 feet running just dunk that takes no skill at all."
The guy who's shooting just foul merchant and step back threes and all of that.
Not sure those are going to be great teammates.
Yeah, maybe not. Okay. We can here on Locked On NBA Game Night, we can safely rule out the Cleveland Cavaliers trading for Giannis. So some games were actually played. We should probably get to those. That's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by New Year, new systems. This is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our business and think there's got to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest upgrades you can make. And that's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Quo, the smarter way to run your business communications. Because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with customers. And your whole team can call and text from one shared business number, so nothing gets missed and everyone sees the full conversation thread, which makes replies faster and more personal. It's going to work right from your phone or computer, and you can even keep your existing number. And there's AI smart tools that are going to just take care of so much for you. So it's no surprise Co is the #1 rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses, from solo operators to growing teams. So make this the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free and get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/LockedOnNBA. That's QUO.com/LockedOnNBA. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is also brought to you by Game Time. Nothing like being in an NBA arena. The crowd, the energy, the new players on your team that you want to get the first look of. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so simple. So that's why Game Time has become the go-to ticketing app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage right back where it belongs with you, the fans. Look at Game Time. Find your upcoming NBA game that you want to go to, and you're going to get tickets locked within minutes. And you're going to see upfront pricing, no surprise fees at checkout. And if you're going to a venue you've never been to before, you get to see the view from the seat before buying. So you're getting the exact tickets that you want. They also have great last-minute options, too, with NBA tickets showing up at solid prices, and just everything feels quick, intuitive, and stress-free from start to finish. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today, and remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. And thank you for making a Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen today and every day. We are here basically Monday to Monday, literally every single day, covering every single game across the association, plus trade talk too. Make your favorite Locked On show your second listen today, because there's a bunch of shows that I'm going to be listening to when it comes to all of the trade stuff. But Nick, we got some games.
Let's go. Bring them
They
on,
actually
Jake
played
Madison.
them. It's like going to be a lightning round here. Let's start with
ready.
The Detroit Pistons beating the Denver Nuggets 124-121. Let's go over to Locked On Pistons.
The Detroit Pistons get a big-time win over the Denver Nuggets, this time with Nikola Jokic in the starting lineup by a score of 124-121. This is the host of the Locked On Pistons podcast, Coop Keel here. The Pistons played incredibly well, especially in the first half. The first half was probably one of their most effective halves of the entire season. They played incredible defense against Nikola Jokic. They were incredible defensively throughout the entirety of the first half. They let it slip a little bit in the second half. In the fourth quarter especially, they let Denver cut it to a 2-point game. Some questionable decisions, I feel like, by J.B. Bickerstaff to not play Ausar Thompson really at all in the fourth quarter. And then to sub him out for after the minute that he did play in the fourth quarter with around 3.5 minutes left. The Pistons went on to not score really for the next 3 to 4 possessions and couldn't get a stop the rest of the game. And the Nuggets were able to make it a game and almost steal this one, but the Pistons ended up holding them off. Cade Cunningham with 29 points and 10 assists. He did his thing. This was a big time win by the Detroit Pistons. They moved to 37 wins. It's been an incredible season, and they get another big time win over Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets.
He sounded like he was at 2 times speed, but do you know what the high was in Detroit today?
No, what was it?
18 degrees. So it is freezing, and he's outside.
He looks like he's in a horror movie. Like, did you hear that? And looking around like there's someone watching him or following him.
Somebody walked by him he didn't want to say his name.
There you go. Cade Cunningham, 29 points, 10 assists. Jokic with 24, 15 rebounds, only 4 assists from him. Let's keep moving on here. The New York Knicks. Oh, go ahead, Nick.
We're just going to roast all these guys.
It's kind of fun. This is one of the fun things here. I know who has the millennial pauses too from our hosts on here. Right. Jackson Gatlin of Locked On Rockets. Just strong millennial pause for 5 seconds, not just one. It's kind of awkward. Shout out Jackson. One. All right. New York Knicks beat the Washington Wizards 132-101 here. Cat with 19 points, 15 boards. Brunson, 21 points. You got anything?
Man, the Knicks won this wire to wire. They had 7 players in double figures. The Wizards, Locked On Wizards, did a show that said crushed. The Wizards are trying to lose, but their loss to the Knicks proves that they still are far away. And that's basically all you need to know.
Cool. All right, moving on. The Los Angeles Lakers beat the Brooklyn Nets 125-109. Let's go over to Locked On Lakers.
Kamenetsky, co-host of the Locked On Lakers podcast. The Lakers get a 125-109 win over the Nets in Brooklyn. Their 8-game road trip comes to a close. The game itself more of a playground vibe than anything particularly intense. The real story was Austin Reeves returning from a Christmas Day calf strain, and in 21 minutes off the bench, looked like Austin Reeves. 15 points, 4 rebounds, 2 steals, 3 of 9 from the field. Still some timing that he needs to get back, a little bit rusty with the shot, but he did get to the line 10 times, as Austin Reeves often does. I cannot wait to start hearing the other 29 fan bases complain incessantly. For more Lakers coverage, make sure you're watching Locked On Lakers on YouTube and listening wherever you get your podcasts.
He's been back for 20 minutes, and he already has 10 free throws.
I don't know what else sums it up better than that one. By the way, Luka Doncic, 24 points in this one. LeBron James with 25 for the Nets. Michael Porter Jr. led the way with 21 points, 10 rebounds. You think he gets moved?
Bad game. I don't think so at this point.
But we'll find out. From when we're recording this, we got about 36 hours here. So we'll see how this all goes.
Still time.
There's still time. The Atlanta Hawks beat the Miami Heat 127-115. Let's go over to Locked On Hawks.
Hello, friends. My name is Brad Rowland, the host of the Locked On Hawks podcast, and the Hawks go on the road to Miami and pick up a quality win on this Tuesday evening. Lots of injuries. There was some controversy around Porzingis coming back and then not coming back for the Hawks in this game, but in the end, really a two-way win for the Hawks on the road. Jalen Johnson was spectacular, 29, 11, and 11, his 9th triple-double of the season for Atlanta. And also the Hawks, beyond Jalen Johnson and Alexander Walker, had a season-high 68 bench points, headlined by 26 from McCollum. And the Hawks just played good defense. They shot the ball well in this game. It was a weird halftime in which there was a 34-minute halftime break. That's something you see every day in the NBA, but the Hawks, again, go on the road, get a nice victory, and bounce back after a couple of pretty shaky losses, including a pretty bad one on Saturday in Indiana. From here, the deadline looms. The Hawks may not be any more active than they have been so far, but going into the deadline, a nice win on a Tuesday night, and one step closer to 500 once again for the Hawks. We'll get into all of what transpired and more on Locked On Hawks.
He made it seem like it was just a halftime that they forgot to bring everybody back, but they were celebrating the 2006.
Yeah, there was a reason
that
for
was
it.
Also frauds. So they're just
yeah, you would know nothing about that. Let's go to Locked On Heat.
Well, not a great way to celebrate the 20-year anniversary of the 2006 championship for the Miami Heat here. They lose to the Atlanta Hawks, 127-115. This game was never close. Frankly, it was kind of an embarrassment, kind of a no-show of a game a couple of days before the trade deadline, on a night where the Heat were honoring the 20-year anniversary of the 2006 championship team. Dwayne Wade, Shaquille O'Neal, Alonzo Mourning, Antoine Walker, Jason Williams, Gary Payton, all these guys were here at halftime for a ceremony as they took pictures with the banner, brought the trophy back out, and watching that versus the juxtaposition of watching that and then watching what we just saw from this team in this game was stark, to be honest. And it reminds you just how far this team is from competing for a championship. And Dwayne Wade said multiple times today, the standard was set with the 2006 championship team. And right now, the Heat are not meeting that standard. And with a couple of days before the trade deadline, they have some big decisions to make. And if they can go get Giannis, that's the kind of thing that might be able to put them back up into the teams in the Eastern Conference who can contend for a championship. But right now, this team's very far away from meeting Dwayne Wade's standard.
Do you think they brought back Bennett Salvatore too?
You seem triggered right now.
Oh yeah, the 2006 one. That's a bad one. For
it was like, you okay? This is a safe space, Nick.
No, I can't imagine if I was there. Like if I was there covering that game, I would probably just walk out of the building for that.
Well, okay. Speaking of the Mavs, they lost 110-100 to the Boston Celtics. Let's go over to Locked On Celtics first.
Jaylen Brown was brilliant. Peyton Pritchard just as good off the bench, and the Celtics get the win in Dallas. I'm John Corrales from the Locked On Celtics podcast. Another amazing night for Jaylen Brown. What can you say? 33 points, 11 rebounds. But it's the way he was scoring, attacking, pulling up, reading the defense. The variety of ways that he can score has gotten so good this year. And then he was making plays. He had a stretch there where he had a couple of passes to Nemish Queta that was really good. So Jaylen Brown, a superstar kind of game. Peyton Pritchard off the bench because Anthony Simons was traded. They needed to get another ball handler coming in for Derek White or to play next to Derek White sometimes. But they needed to have somebody come off the bench that could be a spark. And Peyton Pritchard was exactly that, 26 points on 12 of 20 shooting. The way he operates in the paint continues to be amazing. He just finds ways to get defenders off balance, change direction, and hit shots. And then Luka Garza, who had 3 straight three-pointers for the Celtics in the third quarter to kind of break the game open. The Celtics still foul too much sometimes to get into that bad habit, and that helped the Mavericks come back and cut it down to a 10-point game at the end. Cooper Flagg was incredible. That kid is going to be a megastar, but the Celtics got a lot out of Jaylen Brown, Peyton Pritchard, and they come out of this with a win on the front end of a back-to-back. I'll be talking about it on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
It's called a fake comeback, John Corrales. That's what the Mavs have been classic doing that all year.
My notes on this game were like, great loss for the Mavs. Cooper Flagg looks good, and you lose. What more do you want this season here? Tell us, how good was Cooper Flagg?
Perfect game. He's been absolutely incredible. I mean, just to the way that he scores, the last 3 games, he's averaging 40 points. I mean, he's just been absolutely incredible. The way he gets downhill, the way he finishes at the rim. I've been saying at the beginning of the season, it's incredible what he does as an 18-year-old. Then you're like, well, it's incredible for what he does as a rookie. It's just incredible for what he does in general. Like, there are not many players that can finish the way that he can, the little touch around the rim that he has, the way that he can get around guys, score over smaller defenders that are try to stay with him foot speed wise, and score around guys that are bigger than him that try to stop him that way. I mean, he just has all the tools. That hesitation move has been absolutely incredible, and he was making plays.
All right, I'm glad you feel better here. You're kind of smiling.
Just don't want to think about the 2006 finals anymore.
All right, let's move on. 131-115. The Milwaukee Bucks beat the Chicago Bulls here. The bigger story is Bulls were involved in a trade. They got like 1 million guards now, it feels like.
Kobe White, Mike Conley is on the Bulls now.
Yep.
Trey Jones, Ayo Dosunmu. You got Anthony Simons, we just talked about, who just left. Jaden Ivey is now on the Bulls. Dalen Terry, Yuki Kawamura, that is averaging more rebounds than Jaren Jackson Jr. Like, they have a bunch of guards, and they've got to make some other kind of moves, I think, because that's just too many. But it is very Bullsy.
It is. Look, they're getting some assets, so good for
Right.
them for what they're trying to do. Like, they're doing the smart thing, which is not very Bullsy, I guess, here. With this, I would imagine Conley gets bought out, ends up wherever he kind of wants to go. Kobe White, though, feels like the odd man out, someone that they're just going to end up trading. He had 21 points, 10 rebounds. Like, he continues to look pretty good at times. Not a great shooting night overall from 3, but yeah, it feels like he's going to just get moved. Something's going to happen. They're just going to like give him away for free, more or less, or like a 2nd-round pick, it feels like.
I thought he was going to be in the Timberwolves trade today, and then they just were like, nope.
It was very weird that he wasn't, right?
Well,
Just felt like he should be.
There's something coming with the Timberwolves, I think.
Oh, for sure. They also need like something else here. OKC beats the Orlando Magic here, 128-92. Let's go over to Locked On Magic.
This is Philip Rossman-Reich, the host of Locked On Magic, as the Orlando Magic fall the Oklahoma City Thunder 128-92. And that score really says it all. It's the distance between a championship-level team and a team that, until the season really began, said they were trying to be a championship team. Orlando trailed by 25 points after the first quarter. This game was over within the first 7-8 minutes of the game. The Thunder just completely outclassed Orlando. They got to their spots without any resistance. Orlando couldn't make shots. That's not anything new, but to be this bad, even against a team as elite as the Thunder, to give yourself no chance to win, that is a pretty difficult statement to make for any team, especially a team that has the ambitions that this Magic team has, or maybe had. Maybe we should be saying that in the past tense, because the gap between the Magic and the Thunder is just that wide. The Thunder are a team that knows who they are, knows their identity, knows what they're trying to do on every possession, and executes it with energy, with intensity, and intention. The Magic right now, well, if they miss some shots early, everything goes away. There's no defense, there's no backbone, there's no identity, there's no foundation to build on. And that is everyone's fault. I'm a Jamal Mosley defender, but that is everyone's fault.
Everyone. Sounds like
the
me on
deadline
Locked On
could bring
Pelicans.
some relief and some change. It's going to take a lot more than that for the Magic to realize those preseason ambitions.
Yeah, Thunder are good.
Yeah, it's the takeaway.
Like, Thunder are just very good. All right, Philadelphia 76ers beat a not very good Golden State Warriors team, 113-94. Let's go over to Locked On Sixers.
A season high 5 straight wins for the 76ers as they beat the Golden State Warriors 113-94 behind VJ Edgecombe's game high 25 points. Also came up with 7 assists and 7 rebounds, leading a Sixers offense that was without Joel Embiid and only had a modest night from Tyrese Maxey, who scored 14 points on 3 and 9 shooting. Edgecombe comes up with those 25, leading 8 different 76ers who finished in double figures in scoring. Sixers also saw a huge alley-oop finished off by a Dembona from Quentin Grimes in the second quarter that helped the Sixers continue momentum. And also late in the fourth quarter, VJ Edgecombe taking on his boy Buddy Hield, taking him to the rack for his 24th and 25th points on the evening.
20 turnovers for the Warriors in this one. They just looked awful. Final game of the night. The Phoenix Suns come back 130-125 with a win over the Portland Trail Blazers. Colin Gillespie, 30
Incredible.
points. That was cool. Just
30
great
points,
performance.
10 assists. Colin Gillespie, absolutely awesome. A great story for the Suns.
Yeah, they looked very good in the second half after a terrible first quarter. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Locked On NBA Game Night. We had to run through that there at the end. Big trades covering all the games. On Wednesdays, I'm your co-host, Jake Madison, at Nola Jake on Twitter, host of Locked On Pelicans.
Go listen to Locked On Mavs. The Mavs will do something. I just don't know what it is.
Make them your second listen today. See y'all next time.